All right, guys, we're talking about Chapter 6, Section 4. This is the last section of the chapter, and the title of this section is The War is Won as we wrap up the American Revolution. During the last section, we talked about Yorktown and how the original plan for George Washington was he was going to attack New York City because he needed a decisive battle. And the colonists figured the more battles they won, the big battles, that they would be able to string the war out, and that England would get tired of having to finance this war and finally decide that it's not worth it. Well, Washington's plan succeeded. He devised a secretive and complex plan to trap Cornwallis, who had retreated from Kings Mountain to a peninsula on the coast of Virginia, and where he thought he would be able to receive his own supply ships and more troops for a sustained campaign down south. He knew the British expected him to attack New York City, but he actually pulled off of New York City, and he also learned that a second French fleet would arrive near the Chesapeake Bay right outside of the peninsula of Yorktown, so he'd be able to cut off all British supply ships and troop ships that would have been able to resupply Cornwallis. And he knew if he could keep Cornwallis on the peninsula, he'd have him trapped, and he would have no alternative but to surrender. So, well, like I said, Washington devised a secret plan to attack Cornwallis at Yorktown. He didn't even tell his soldiers. He just sent them on a march down south to Virginia to bottle up Cornwallis at Yorktown. As you see in this picture here, this shows the route that Cornwallis took. As you see in the upper portion of the picture, shows him leaving from New York, coming from the backside of New Jersey, down through Maryland, skirting the coast, and arriving at Yorktown. In August of 1781, Admiral de Grasse's French fleet arrives off the coast, almost in perfect timing. He also had summoned Anthony Wayne to help reinforce and create this cap to this bottleneck. Members of the Continental Army were not told where they were going, and feared that the plan would leak out. He didn't want the British to know he was not attacking New York City. He wanted the plan to be a complete secret. When it all flushed out, Washington and Wayne ended up amassing 14,000 troops against 7,500 British troops that were in actually the town of Yorktown at the end of the peninsula. Cornwallis all the while thought he would be sent more troops by sea, but the French fleet had already arrived there first and cut the Chesapeake Bay off, thus prohibiting his resupply. Here's a good battle map. As you see in this battle map, you see where Yorktown is, and you see the American and French lines, to include Washington and Wayne and Rochambeau, a French general, completely surrounding Yorktown. As you see the York River, which leads to the Chesapeake Bay, you see the French fleet is waiting there. There's nowhere for Cornwallis to go. The Continental Army began to bombard Cornwallis on October 11th, 1781. Cornwallis held out for 7 days, but he finally seen his desperation of the situation and surrendered on October the 19th. He was so embarrassed about this and making this military blunder of trapping himself, he sent his second in command. He didn't even have the nerve to go and surrender to Washington himself. This was a huge continental victory. They showed England this war could have went on for years and years, and England didn't have the wallach or the stomach to continue fighting the colonies. Finally, they just basically threw their hands up and said, you can have it. Like I said, the British thought this was too expensive to continue, so they agreed to let the colonies become independent states. The treaty that ended the Revolutionary War had been worked on for a couple months. Finally, it was signed on September 3rd, 1783. The terms of the Treaty of Paris are as follows. The United States was granted independence from England. They were declared to be independent, no longer under English control. The United States gained all the territory from the Atlantic Ocean to the Mississippi River, from the Great Lakes down to Georgia. Britain was to withdraw all troops from this area that the United States had gained in its independence. The British merchants were also able to collect debts that Americans still owed them from prior to the Revolutionary War, or any debts accrued. They were still allowed to collect their money. Soon after the victory at Yorktown and the Treaty of Paris was signed, Washington gave up his command of the Continental Army on December 4th, 1783. He did not want to stay in power too long with the army under his command. He was afraid that people might think that they were trading the control of England into a military state, where he was going to be a military dictator, and he wanted to alleviate people's fears that we've accomplished our task, we are independent, I'm stepping down, you don't have to worry about me leading this army and gaining control. Yeah, he returned to his Virginia home of Mount Vernon. We can ask ourselves a couple basic questions, and I think it's very important for this unit to really determine why the colonists were able to win this war. Well, number one, the colonists fought harder to win their freedom from England. The Americans controlled the countryside where they knew the terrain. America knew all the ambush spots. They knew how to get from point A to point B faster than the British Army because this was their homeland. They knew the back roads, the marshes, the swamps, the mountain passes. All those things led to a decided advantage for the colonists. We would not have won this war without the help of France and Spain. French sending troops, money, supplies, and supplying the naval power, which we did not have prior to the war, really contributed to us winning the Revolutionary War. Spain also helped with its attack and control of the Gulf Coast. Other European nations also contributed with sending different military officers to help train the Revolutionary Continental Army, like von Steuben, and you had actually Europeans that actually fought alongside the colonists with Pulaski and Kokoschka. So it was really the help of the European allies that really helped us win this war. And finally, we just fought this battle with determination. Every battle we fought, we knew we were fighting for independence. British soldiers just lacked the motivation. Yeah, they followed orders, but they were not motivated by a higher purpose, such as independence or freedom. They fought for their checks. They followed the orders. American colonists fought for freedom. They knew what was at stake. They wanted their independence. They wanted self-governance. And overall, basically, they just more motivated. This is going to conclude our unit on the Revolutionary War. Now we're going to move on. We're free. We're independent. Now yet. That's next in Chapter 7.